Hello everybody and welcome to this discussion of Dead by Daylight's current state of community and balance. Before we even begin, understand I caught the flu and I might be a little nasally here and there and not full of energy. I do apologize, but I have to get this out before the flu fully takes over and I can't make this video. It's been a hot topic recently on the Reddit thread amongst streamers that there's a heavy imbalance to Dead by Daylight. Killers are asking for a buff, while survivors are scolding the killers for requesting a much desired increase to their killing potential. There's also been a heavy spread of wrong information, emotional rants, illogical conclusions about what killers are really asking for and what's all going on. To start, it's very important that we begin to address that there is a very clear balance issue for survivors and killers. Survivors currently hold a very clear and overwhelming presence over the killer. Killers are given the short end of the stick as they have little control on how the match should go and heavily rely on survivors to make the mistakes in order to even get a decent game in. Survivors who properly utilize their mapping and outlandish resources of palettes have the clear potential to always deep-hit the killer, even if the killer makes no mistakes during their play, and we'll cover this more in depth as we discuss some of the postings we're going to go on about. There have been a few posts on Twitter and Reddit that both caught my attention that I thought we should address during these kind of discussion regarding the balance of killers and the misinformation that's been getting out and about. So first, let's address the Twitter post which I found most interesting from Jendenise. She's a large Dead by Daylight streamer who is mained survivor and occasionally plays killers. There's been some bits and bobs that have gotten her to type out this rant of hers, and you can find the full post located in the description down below. I won't be reading the whole thing or hardly any of it at all, but I do want to unpack what's there, so if you want to, please feel free to read the entire post in return. But I'm just going to summarize it essentially and take parts and just unpack it for y'all. First, she points out that some things in need of fixing are maps and a few mechanics such as decisive strike and brand new parts. However, she mainly points to killers being stubborn to not play better, and here's where I respectfully and 100% disagree. I very much agree that there is a lot of mapping issues which comes with palette issues as well, but a game like this, for how basic it is, comes with what is known as a skill cap. No matter how good you get at this game, killers have a limitation dictated by the very mechanics they play by and the opposing survivor team. You could be the best killer in the world, but time itself is against you at every waking second. Even the best killer that plays optimally, the survivors would have to avoid playing optimally in order for the killer to stand even the slightest of chances. As the game stands, the minimum required time to complete all generators is 2 minutes and 40 seconds, excluding any time it takes to find or walk and or run to the generator in the first place. This is only considering that 3 generators are fixed by 3 survivors at the start, with 1 survivor being chased by the killer. Then 1 survivor is hooked, 1 goes for the save and or is chased by the killer, and to complete the final 2 generators. Once all generators are online, it's an additional 20 seconds to open the door, making it a total of 3 minutes minimum, of course without walking, to complete the game. And of course this is the fastest possible outcome and not always probable with the killer interrupting the flow of gameplay with their perks and their presence, but it's important to understand this 3-minute minimum because the results are actually not that outlandish or hard to achieve. It's actually quite common for a single chase against well-versed survivors to take approximately 3 generators, and I'm not talking survive with friends, I'm just talking 4 random rank 1 survivors are capable of accomplishing some massive loops that could just lead the other 3 veteran players to just finish their generators and know exactly what to do. It typically requires killers to run ruin to help buy some additional time. However, players, including myself, just work through the perk and lose only a matter of 5 to 20 seconds depending. It's pretty bad. Hell, I know survivors who can power through the entire thing with great skill checks only, making it easy to just cause ruin to not exist for them. Am I that person? No. Have I seen it happen? Yes. The point is though, killers are pressured heavily on time. Everything they do consumes a great deal of time. A single attack is 3 seconds, meaning that it takes no less than 6 seconds of recovery from an attack to put a survivor down on the ground without additional tools of, let's say, a chainsaw or powers. Then it's 4.5 seconds to pick a survivor up. Then depending on how long your transportation takes, it could take you up to 16 seconds unless then you drop them, but you wasted that 16 seconds if you did drop them plus all the time before, because it'll take 3 more seconds to knock them down, 4.5 more seconds to pick them back up, and by that time someone could have gotten a generator. That's not to include if you pick somebody up and they decisive strike you, that's 5 seconds of you being stunned, 3 more seconds of hitting them again if you can get that immediately, and 4.5 seconds of picking them up. Then not only that, if you do finally get them to a hook, it's 2.5 seconds of hooking them. And so then even if we were at the hook with the survivor taking both hits without moving, it is a total of 13 seconds for a single hook at the fastest possible a killer can perform. That's a survivor not moving, taking 2 hits, being directly under a hook, and that is extremely rare, and I've only seen it if a survivor goes AFK or gives up on life. And even while on the hook, that survivor has 2 minutes before death, meaning that if 3 generators are completed before they get hooked, all survivors could just finish 2 more generators and still have plenty of time to make a save, or just let the player die and forcefully cause the killer to lose. So why am I going all these numbers and working out the time of all these actions? And it's just to show mathematically, survivors hold a massive advantage, and there are plenty of rank 1 survivors who know this. There are plenty of players who utilize this knowledge, especially me, and put it to my advantage to be sure that I depip as many killers as possible to punish them for any overly defensive plays. Even if the killer brings his best add-ons, a survivor's best add-ons and items are superior. And so because of this, it has been a thing for killers such as myself to put up a lot of complaints that maybe killers are just a bit too weak. In fact, they are so weak there's a literal limit to how good a killer can be, and that they rely on the skill of the survivor to be lower in order to capitalize on the weakness and then dampen their entire team and chances of powering the gate optimally. If killers don't play optimal hillbilly nurse, then they are literally asking for the chances to be put against them. And of course, you know, you got the skillful huntress as well, but even then a poor matchup on a map can mean the difference between a pip or a D-pip. And I get some people don't care about pips, but you know, sometimes people do. And even if you say you don't, there will be a time you do. Everyone does. I haven't seen someone really say, oh, I don't care about winning, and then they were always super happy that they lost. That's something new to me. Now, not only do killers have to worry about a skill cap, varied by every killer, of course nurse being the highest skill cap, we also suffer from the strength of pallets alone to increase our suffering. I do not complain much about the act of pallet looping itself, more or less. I bring up the problems regarding the amount of pallets and the bullshit a single one provides. Anywhere from 20 to 35 in a map. A survivor who properly uses these pallets can run the entire game without being in any danger for as long as their allies are working on the generators and opening the doors in that 3 minutes. And the only time a killer is going to be able to capitalize on this is if the survivor makes the mistake of taking a loop they shouldn't, that is too long, and taking a hit from a killer who does not make the mistake of missing or doesn't lunge for the attack, afraid of a vacuum from a pallet that would otherwise save them, stun the killer, reward the survivor, and cause an even greater gap of time unless the killer is running enduring to stop the stun and brutal strength to quickly break the pallet. But this is the part where Jen and I agree. The maps need balancing, but with that balance comes a change of windows, pallets, and debris. With the maps being balanced, I can promise you, you'll see less pallets around, as they are the safest, most powerful option against a killer. And I'm not saying that survivors shouldn't need these, they need them. There does have to be some defense and interaction against the killer. I'm not denying survivors that, but what I'm saying is 25 to 30 in a map with 8 of them in a single corner is overkill, a bit much. You do not need more than 2, because 2 can still run us a whole minute against your 3-minute countdown, and because survivors choose not to finish the game in 3 minutes, then it's technically the survivors who are controlling that flow of not making it a 3-minute game. They are making it longer doing other things, but that's not the killer's decision. Some survivors do end the game quickly. That's where this gen rushing idea comes in. When these generators are finished lickety split, The killer has hardly any control over this. Again, they can run ruin, but then if they're fighting survivors that can fight that themselves without breaking the totem, it's a wasted perk. They're gonna fix the gens no problem, and the same issue arises for the killer. They have no control and have to rely on survivors making a mistake. And if a killer gets a kill early on, then he can count his blessings, as he's got to make every proper play perfectly from then on to really capitalize on other survivor mistakes. Be it they run into the open to get a save and the killer sees them, or the save is made way too early in a bad spot where the killer downs that person immediately again and knocks an entire minute off that hook. That is a survivor's mistake where a killer capitalizes on that, and that's the problem. Killers are less interactive and more reactive. They can take advantage of mistakes made by survivors, but they cannot really control much ebb and flow. They have some, mind you. Huntress, Hillbilly, and Nurse have higher skill caps for a reason. They have the abilities that do drastically change the game. One-hit chainsaw, blinks that can't be avoided if you're good enough, and Huntress hatchets that, oh my god, when devastating from across the map, scariest thing you'll come across. But that's it. You're not going to get that from Wraith, Doctor, Hag, Trapper, or anyone else, really, especially not Freddy. Now, of course, I'm not saying that killers can't have good games. A lot of people point out that when I do make complaints or criticisms against the game, it's during me killing all 4 people. But the one thing everyone overlooks is, was that really my skill killing 4 people, or did they make mistakes? Was it their stupidity that ultimately led them into my victory? I did a Trapper video, I think, not too long ago. I'll link it down below. I called it, they borked themselves, because they did. They literally killed themselves. I had no skill implied into this game other than I walked to where they made notifications and they stood there and trapped themselves, got hit themselves, and they made a couple of good protective plays. But other than that, they just ran into everything, notifying me of everything going on. It was not my skill that won that game, it was their mistakes. And what concerns me is really how nice Jendenise is at times. In her posting, she covers how much she tries to help cater to the killer by not abusing loops, or running near large hitbox cars to avoid, hatchets and their ridiculous hitboxes. This, however, should point out the fact that it is a clear issue with not just the maps, but the killers themselves. If you as a survivor are actually having to show pity so that you don't come off as a douche. No, Jendenise does not come off as a douche, but the way she words it, I'm really just taking it from her posting. It's just she's catering to them so they don't suffer. In essence, you, the survivor, because you're catering, you have the power. And since the killer has literally no options other than give up or continue chase, but both wasting time, they have to power through everything you throw at them if they continue chase, such as all the pallets and perks you have, versus if they give up chase against you, they still have to find somebody else with every second ticking against them, especially since now that you know he walked away from you, you will now get on a generator, and you will begin your 1 minute, 20-second countdown. I just want to bring up this clip with me downed with this nurse here. I mean, really, she has no tools to stop this kind of bullying. 4 of us right outside a gate. I mean, she did. She had no ed. That's how we got into this predicament first. Someone got downed, and I went to go save them, but all 3 of us went together, and we got them off while also breaking the totem. And we rescued several people this game at the very end, and there was just nothing she could do. If she tried to take us all out at the gate, we all would have crawled out and she would not have been able to hook us. But if she didn't pick one of us up, then, like I said, we'd just crawl. But if she did pick one of us up, we would then body block her, flashlight her, and everything we could possibly do. And if she snuck past us, we would all heal up and prepare ourselves for the next save, and the only way she could have stopped us was a solid face camp, which isn't even possible anymore. She can't stop us from grabbing them, and if we have borrowed time, she's screwed. And to be honest, this is how it ended. Go, bitches, go! No! No, blind her! Blinder! Beat the crap out of her! You can't stop me! Not Friday. Oh, shit. You'll see that this is a case where I'm having a lot of fun being able to express my power of a survivor over a killer who is literally being bullied by the 4 of us. We were a survivor with friends, 3 of us, but we were not in voice comms. One was a random viewer, the other one was Marth88, which you can find on stream. He is another killer main who has very valid opinions, just like Jendenise, that we all should just come together and really work things and iron it out as to what's going on. But to be honest, looking at that clip, it just reminded me that I had the most fun when I was in control, and I am in control as a survivor. A person who should not be in this much control over a game that is designed to have the killer kill and the survivors survive the control of the killer. In the end, Dead by Daylight is not just a PvP game. It's an asymmetrical PvP game. And like asymmetrical games, the foundations of these types of games is that you typically have one powerful side consisting of a single but very powerful unit versus a set of a weak but numerous opposition. The idea is that together and with great teamwork, the weak opposition can come together to overcome the challenge provided from the single powerful unit with great effort. However, it's quite the opposite from Dead by Daylight. People like to point at killer perks for being a great counter to survivors perks. However, killer perks themselves all have weak spots where survivors really don't suffer too much from this. No One Escapes Death is typically a very powerful and referenced killer perk that killers can have this perk, and back in the day, I would grant you that yeah, you're right, that perk is extremely powerful. Except back in the day, it always existed. You could not remove the perk from the killer. Once all generators were powered, you left. That killer was devastating and scary because they would always knock you down. And there was no such thing as borrowed time or decisive strike, just pure, raw power. And you had nothing to play against it, other than pray to God you weren't next to the killer when the last generator was powered. But now, Noed can be destroyed, and in fact, can be removed without even ever coming into play by destroying the 5 totems before the last generator. Barbecue and Chili is also very predictable, only giving locations if you're at a great distance, to which you can actually use to your own advantage as a survivor. It only reveals you for 4 seconds, and you can take that 4 seconds to confuse the killer to your direction. Or, if you know that he has Barbecue and Chili, you can get in a close range and have him camp your ally while you get the last generator. Secure your victory. There is really tons to talk about here, more than I can put in this video. I'm already running way over what I wanted to, and I didn't even get to properly thank Jendenise for putting her thoughts and opinions out there. I don't mean any ill will against her, and even though I disagree with her opinion does not make her ideas invalid. I do appreciate what she says, I just don't agree with everything, and I would like to take the time sometime to sit down and talk with her, and likely I will, just like we did once before. And I will contact her on another time, but I wanted to get this video out because this was what I was making, and she happened to release this 2 days before I finished it, so I kind of grabbed it and added it in. And a lot of what I was talking about related to her post, and to a lot of Reddit posts I didn't even get into regarding this whole situation. Another thing is there's so much to talk about, but with the badge update coming soon, which will fix how killers and survivors win and lose, it changes everything so very drastically. I'm not sure how we're going to proceed forward with this, because even if we have good ideas now, this change could actually fix a lot of our complaints, or it might not do anything at all. But I will pray that it does. As it stands now, there are few killers remaining in Dead by Daylight. Queue times are once again at an all-time high, especially at the higher ranks, because nobody likes to play killer. It fails to promise the one thing that asymmetrical games promise to the single powerful unit, the power roll. Survivors are, as of now, both the numerous and power roll, while the killer remains to be an interactive artificial intelligence, with limitations to how skillful that killer can be. I would like to say that really isn't me being stubborn and not wanting to get better, but this is me realizing that there's a limit to how much better I can be even if I wanted to break the limit. The mechanics of the game are my limit, and the interactivity that I have is not enough. I, as a killer, do not have the tools to properly make decisions and plays that would otherwise change the game. As I said before, this is not Marvel vs. Capcom. I cannot make the active decision to break your defense. I have to have you make the mistake to break your own defense. And there's only so much I can do. And a single mistake by me is far more costly than just following you through that loop. Of course, there are some smarter decisions and quicker paths, but otherwise, I'm stuck being your artificial intelligence. As I wrap up, I want to thank everybody who put their thoughts out there, everybody who's discussing this reasonably. But understand that killers are not asking to be unstoppable. We're asking you, survivors, to stop being unstoppable. You can make a mistake, and that's what we can capitalize on. But that's not fun, to only capitalize on your mistakes, while you're able to recover from your mistakes. We can't. I guess I can go on forever saying all this, but thank you, Jendenise, for your post. Thank you, everybody on Reddit, for your posts. And hopefully I can make another video that just kind of dives deeper into this. Additionally, I might look into streaming some discussion live, so if you wish to be a part of that, I will be sure to announce that I will be doing one soon. Maybe even reward those who show up with something that I can. If someone can bring a good discussion and help change my mind as far as I see it as a killer, I would like to hope that I'm not that biased, but the only reason I take the killer's side is because I don't see any logical flaw that the survivors are actually weak at all and suffer in any way. Again, that could just be because I play at a higher rank, because I already know everything about this game. However, what stops you from learning about this game? What stops you from becoming me and bullying the next killer? In fact, there's so much to discuss, I gotta end this here. As a final note, Jendenise brings up True Talent's video on the Shadow Nerf to Nurse. She's 100% right. It is not a Shadow Nerf. It has always been a part of the game. It has been there since the nurse released. You could always stop the nurse with a pallet. She does not get stunned. You can still react during it, so the nurse can still attack after being hit. The survivor is rewarded regardless if she stops at the pallet or continues through, as long as the pallet still hits her. She's just not actually affected by the stun. So she can hit you, she could blink again if she has one behind, and that's that. This was an incredibly long video, and please, for anyone who disagrees, be civil about it. I will always be civil with you as long as you provide the same respect to me. And Jendenise, if you have watched this up to this far, I again cannot state enough how I appreciate you putting your opinion out there. And the only reason I didn't tweet back is because, just like your twit longer, this is my twit longer. This is just how I choose to express my opinions on things, and I feel that some video footage with my voice is the best way to express it instead of over Twitter, as I have way too much to say and don't collect my thoughts properly all the time. And with that, I ask for everyone's opinion. Please comment down below. Let me know who you agree with, what you agree with. Let me know your thoughts, your change ideas, everything you want to discuss here. I think it's become important now that Dead by Daylight's in a critical point where survivors are really the only fun side to play while killers suffer. And to be honest, it's affected me. I'm not gonna lie, I've had a pretty shit attitude for a while. People have called me out on it, and I've done my best to get over how frustrating it is as a killer. And to be honest, playing Survivor reignites my love for the game, but again, it's not as a killer, and that what makes me want to go play the real power role, because that's what I like to do. It's my personality, it's how I fit in. So please give me your opinions. I'd love to hear from all of you. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, share this with all your friends. Remember, this is an open discussion. And again, a new one will be coming out with more direct discussions on very specific things, so we don't have to talk about something so broad. And again, this community has something worthwhile. We just have to make it worthwhile. Thank you all for watching, and as always, good game.